Hey everyone. It always seems like people are asking me questions about mineral titles online, so I thought I'd make a little video here and demonstrate a few important things that you might need to know in mineral titles online. This tutorial is a very basic overview and is primarily for those starting out with mineral and placer claims in BC, and I'm going to focus on placer slash gold claims and activities. Just a quick disclaimer, the information I'm providing here is for informational purposes only. It's not all inclusive. There's a lot of information on the website, and if you have any questions, you should direct them right to the Minerals Titles branch staff. They're very helpful, and their contact information and all the pages you see in this video are linked below in the description box. So I wanted to show you two pages here that are the main pages if you're starting out with the mineral titles. Here we have the branch website, and again you'll find the link in the description box below. But there's a ton of information on the branch website about how mineral titles works. Right on the main page here, you have mineral and placer titles, and getting started is a great resource for new clients. A lot of information in there. Down here on the right, you have information updates. There's a series of notices basically that give you a ton of information, very helpful. And also helpful is publications, forms, and maps here. But if you're just looking through, there's so much you can read. You have frequently asked questions up on the left. But those links I just showed you there are generally most helpful to me anyway. And then the other page is the home page or launching page for mineral titles online. So the links are below, but this is where you would actually go to log in and acquire claims and so on, and to view the mineral and placer maps in the province. Before we go any further, I just wanted to talk about recreational hand panning because some folks don't quite know when you need to get a free miner certificate, which is the license or certificate that authorizes you to do mining work in the province. So one of those information updates that I referenced just a couple seconds ago, information update number 2 is recreational hand panning for placer minerals. And so this is very informative for just telling you when you might need a free miner certificate. So I'll just highlight a couple points here, but it just says that the Mineral Tenure Act provides that hand panning in a watercourse for placer minerals as a recreational activity can be carried out by an individual without the necessity of holding a valid free miner certificate. So where do you draw the line? It says here, no equipment or tools other than a hand pan, hand shovel, and a metal detector can be used in recreational hand panning. So if you're going to be using a sluice box, rocker box, shaker, suction dredge, it's all very strictly regulated. You need to have a mineral claim, which means you need to have a free miner certificate, and you'll need to have a valid claim. And then for any mechanized any machines that you're bringing out there, you'll probably need to apply for a permit as well. And at the very least, you'll need to check whether you need a permit. So if you're going to be recreational hand panning, they have here where you cannot do it. And then so within a park, conservancy, ecological reserve, or protected area, on a reserve or treaty settlement lands without permission, and on private property without the owner's permission. So basically, if you want to just get out there with a hand pan, hand shovel, and metal detector, and you're on Crown land, and you know that you're on Crown land and not private land, or if you're on private property with permission, you can just go ahead and you can do this. So, and I think if you ever have any questions about the equipment, you can run that by Mineral Titles branch. Next up, I'd like to talk about just what you need to do to get online with Mineral Titles Online to where you can acquire a mineral or placer claim. There's a great web page here on the branch website that says Becoming a Client, and it outlines the two things you need. And as it states right here, you need a business BC EID and a free miner certificate. So for the free miner certificate, it's a form that you can download from the website. If you are at a Front Counter BC office or Service BC office, you can get the form there, fill it out. You're just filling out your personal information, contact information. There's a section on the form where they ask you if you want to make, for instance, your email address public or private. And then for an individual, it's $25 for 1 year. If you're 65, then it's free. I should let you know, if you do have a free miner certificate and you turn 65, you have to fill out the form again and you have to submit it. And basically, the staff there, they will update your account to recognize that it's a free account. You still have to renew it every year. After you fill out the form in subsequent years, it's something you can do online, but the initial application for both over or under 65, that form that you fill out, it's got to be mailed in. If you mail it in, you got to mail it in with a check payable to the Minister of Finance for $25. Again, you can do this at a Service BC office, and I think if you're in one of those offices, you can pay with a debit card. And if you're in the Mineral Titles branch in Vancouver, I know for a fact you can pay with cash as well. So you're going to need to fill out the form, download it, and the link is here, and then fill it in, mail it in, and then they will send you a copy of your free miner certificate. Now the certificate, it's an online form. It's basically like a registration that is confirmed. So it's a page that you look at. You can certainly print it off, but there's no formal card or certificate. The other part you'll need is a BC EID. So the British Columbia Electronic Identification. It's kind of like if you go into an office and you show some ID, and this is kind of like an online version of showing someone your ID. So to get the account set up, you have to do exactly that. What you're going to do is you're going to go to bceid.ca, and you even if you're an individual here, you still need the business BC EID. You don't have to have a registered business, but you're gonna register, and you see on the right here it says individuals are required to register as a proprietorship. So make sure you don't get the other types of BC EID, which is there's a basic one and there's a personal one. But yeah, so you want to go on the website, fill out your information, and the BC ID is basically going to be a username and a password that is linked to your personal information. So when you go on to enroll in the program, they're going to ask you personal information, and you fill it out, and then based on you tell them what pieces of identification you have, and then you're going to say you're going to get to a point and say, now you have to take your identification and actually physically go into one of the authorized proofing addresses. You can enter your postal code. They'll tell you where the closest office is. So if you're not in BC, you should know that you'll need to be in BC at least at one point. If you're in Alberta, you cannot really get fully online on Mineral Titles Online until you get in there and get that business BC EID. So once you have your free miner certificate, if you sent in the money to Mineral Titles Online, the check, or if you have gone into a Service BC, and then you also have your business BC EID, then you are almost good to go. The last step is that the Mineral Titles branch staff have to link the two to allow you access. So I can think of the BC EID like your username and your password, but it's an account that has to be verified. You're going to go in there and you're going to show them your ID. And then the free miner certificate, like I said, it's a form you fill out, mail in. They will send you a letter or email with your free miner certificate confirming. And then you have to renew every year, but from after the first year, it's a process you can do online. And like I was saying, the last step is to contact Mineral Titles. I think you can call them or email them, and you give them your BC EID and you identify your free miner certificate number, and then they will link the two so that Mineral Titles knows that free miner certificate is linked with the business BC EID. And when that's all done, you can get online with Mineral Titles Online and go and acquire claims, log in, and go from there. Before we go on to the Mineral Titles Online map system, I wanted to show a quick option which I find is extremely helpful for getting an idea of where claims are in the province. We'll get into the Mineral Titles map in a bit, and there is a bit of a learning curve. You have to kind of figure it out, and it's not the most intuitive system. There's a lot of information in there, I know, and there's a lot of people who use it for a lot of different purposes. So what I wanted to show you is there is a way to overlay the current mineral titles onto Google Earth, which, if you're familiar with it, is a very useful way to look at the world and BC. And like I said, you can actually have a look at the current titles. So Google Earth, if you Google Earth, you can download the software. It's pretty neat and it's free. So I'll put a link in the bottom to where you can download that. But if you're familiar with it, it's kind of like Google Maps. Very similar program. And like I said, it's very handy for having a look at claims. claims. So I'm going to walk through the steps here. This is Data BC, and they are the government branch that creates all these layers. And I'm going to show, maybe this is a backwards way, but I'll show you how I get to this information. You don't actually have to, watch this too much, but yeah, here we go. So under Geographic Services, and then I skip down to Connect. And then I think it's BCGW Web Map Service. No, right down to BC Data Catalog. Again, you don't have to pay too much attention here, but you're gonna, so all the data sets. And again, there may have been a quicker way of getting there, but I apologize. So if you just type mineral in here, you're gonna find 78 data sets found for mineral. And then if you scroll down on the left for format, when you click Show More under KML, as far as I understand, those are Google Earth layers. So you can click on that, and then it brings up only two options here, and it says Mining and Petroleum Web Map Service. And if you click on that link, you get three options here down at the bottom, Data and Resources. The middle one here is KML with ground overlays for use in Google Earth. And what you can do is this is the layer that contains all the information for mineral titles online. I believe it's updated daily. You might want to check with the branch for that. But if I click this and download it, but I've actually already downloaded this today. And so what will happen is if you have Google Earth downloaded and install, and you click on that link, it's going to load this layer into Mineral Titles Online. And so now here, this is basically what Google Earth looks like for me. I've just gone and zoomed into Princeton here. So if you look on the left here, it says Temporary Places, BC Gov, Mining and Petroleum Layers. So these are your layers. Yeah, so what you can do here is I'm going to go, so here's the My Places and then Temporary Places. Two things I want to show is that you should know that for placer, for gold, if you're going to get a placer claim in BC, you can only do it in acquire claim in certain areas. It's limited for ecological reasons, I believe, and you have to basically be within what they call the designated placer areas. I know they open up some areas from time to time, but I don't think it's happened for a while. So the two layers that are of interest here, and so these layers are all mineral titles grid, on and on. If you're really into this stuff and you know what you're talking about, you can have a look here. But the ones that interest me today are the placer tenures and the designated placer areas. So I'm going to click on placer tenures, and what we're going to do here, let's see if I can get that to go. We're going to go to Princeton here. Okay, so it should zoom into Princeton, and you can see the purple there. Those are all active mineral placer claims, I should say. So, and it takes a second to load, but if you let it load here, this is going to give you a good idea of where people are working on placer claims. And like I said, I believe the information is accurate to within 24 hours. So a lot of folks say on Mineral Titles Online, when I talk to them, show them around, they say, I don't know exactly where are people working, where can I get a claim? So this overlay is really helpful. Now, these claims are obviously within the designated placer area. But, where there's smoke, there's fire. If people are, have placer claims, a lot of the times, they're onto they're onto something here. And you'll notice that they follow the river here. Okay, so what this basically gives you to do, and within the easy-to-use Google Earth software, you can zoom around. Let's say you're in Hope or wherever you are in the province. You can have a zoom into your area, and you can see what is current. And then have a look around. And I'll just show you the other layer here, which is designated placer areas here. Unfortunately, you can't load these layers over top of each other, at least as far as I know. So you have to turn one on and then the other one on separately. But if I zoom out here, you can see these orange hatches here. You're going to get an idea of the areas in the province. Let's see if this populates in a second here. Yeah, we're still within the designated placer. You can see over here, for instance, this is where the designated placer area ends. So, you can acquire a placer claim here on the left, and then you cannot. So, yeah, you can have a look, and you can say, oh, I really wanted to, we'll be in, whichever area. And like I said, like the lower mainland, there's, that is not part of that reserve. Just wait a sec here. Yeah, and so this gives you a good idea up on the riverways here. This is where you do placer work in the province. It's strictly regulated. Yeah, so there's two layers there. Two layers there, the designated placer areas and the placer tenures. This is a really good way to just show you what is out there. Now, this is not Mineral Titles Online, and if you're going to acquire a claim, you have to go into Mineral Titles Online. But I always say this is a really good place to start to have a look around and see what is out there. All right, back to the Mineral Titles Online launching page here, and I just wanted to show a few things of note on this page. Now, on the top right is where you would want to log on to Mineral Titles Online. If I mouse over it here, it highlights in yellow, start, acquire a mineral title, and actually if you scroll down to the bottom of the page, there's a similar logon button. This does the same thing, and actually some of these buttons here, title search, site search, map, mineral map and placer map, you find the same links over here on the left. So why would you want to log into Mineral Titles Online? Well, it's to perform any claim related functions. So if you want to acquire a claim, it's going to take you through to the Mineral Titles map, but you're going to need to log in and you'll see a mineral claim tab or a placer claim. Make sure you don't get did the wrong type of claim. If you're going to be doing, if you're looking for gold, you're by a river, then you're going to look for a placer claim. The rate for acquisition for placer is $5 a hectare. And just a little information about claim sizes. For a mineral claim, the rate is $1.75 a hectare. Now, a claim is made up of a number of cells. It can be any from one cell up to 100 cells in the province. So it's kind of like Lego blocks. You can have a 100 cell claim if you want. Many placer claims are just 1 or 2 cells. So if you're buying a claim, the placer rate is $5 a hectare. These cells are on average between 17 and 21 hectares. So I'm going to talk about a hypothetical claim here a couple times, and we're going to say that it's 20 hectares for simplicity's sake. So if you're going to acquire a placer claim that was 1 cell, the rate for acquisition is $5 a hectare, and so it's going to cost you $100 to acquire that, and that's for a year. Now, if you want to extend the life of your claim into the future, you have 2 options. You can record that you've done work and you assign a value to that, and based on the value that you have, that'll determine how far into the future you are able to move your claim, and I will talk about that a little more. The other option is making a payment instead of recording work. So that's all in Mineral Titles when you're logging in, and again, I'll talk about recording work in just a little bit here. But yeah, the start button is to log in to perform functions. There's a lot of functions and a lot of things you can read on. You can abandon a claim, you can subdivide a claim, you can amalgamate claims. It's all in there, and I'm not going to get into it in too much detail in this video. But the other thing that on this screen which is relevant is on the left here. You'll see it says search for mineral, placer, coal titles, and then also of relevance is view mineral titles and view placer titles. Just to let you know, there's 2 separate maps in Mineral Titles Online. You will look at mineral claims on this link, and then for placer claims, you have to look in here. Now, what I want to show you here is where it says search for mineral / placer / coal titles. If you click here, it's going to pop up a search box, and this is a very useful box for looking up a lot of things. So I believe the terms claim and tenure and now title are all referred to interchangeably. I'm not 100% sure on that, but we talk about claims and tenures, and now you'll see the word title. So I think you can consider them all the same. So if I punch in a random number here, let's go 102, 453. 6.3. I'm not sure if this will work. Is this a claim? Yes, Platinum Belt owns. So here is a title number. This is a mineral claim, and now you can see here it says forfeiture. So the client Platinum Belt Resources had this claim, and they termination comments automatic forfeiture. So basically, the good to date is the expiry date of the claim here. If you don't record work, and if you don't make that payment, then you're going to lose the claim. I should say that a claim that forfeits is available at 10 a.m. The day after it forfeits. So basically this claim, and now if you go down here, you see a summary of everything that happened. So the first result here, effective date, this claim registration acquisition. So the claim was acquired, and you see here it says area in hectares, 20 hectares, so that's going to be one cell. They gave it a name, and then it was actually acquired by someone named Michael Andrew Adam, and then it was transferred to this company, and then very interestingly, it was transferred to this company, and the very next day it forfeited. So I don't know why anyone would have it claim transferred to them and then have it just forfeit because nothing was done. Maybe they didn't quite understand registering the work. So hopefully this video can help out in that regard so that your claim doesn't forfeit. Just remember that if you acquire a claim, one day after you acquire that claim, 1 year after is your forfeiture date, or your good to date as they call it. And if you don't record work, if you don't make a payment, the claim is gone and the land is available 10 a.m. the next morning for any client to acquire. You don't get any kind of preference in that way. It's open season at exactly 10 a.m. Now, what was I going to say next? So yeah, here we have a claim. It forfeited. Oh yeah, I was going to say this transfer of ownership. Won't get into it too much. You can hit up Google for this if you want. But if you're going to transfer a claim, the first party here transferring a claim initiates it, and then the other party has to go in. I think they have 30 days to complete the action. So the seller here enters the. Now this is something you would log into Mineral Titles Online, and on one of the tabs there, you'll find it in there. You initiate the sale, but if the other party doesn't come in and complete the sale, then it expires after 30 days, and you just have to go in and do that again if you would like. So that is a summary of a random claim here. Yeah, I think that is about that. So let's go back a page here. Now, event numbers. So an event number is like a receipt. It's like a receipt number for any transaction that's in the system. If you acquire a claim, that gets an event number. That screen we were just looking at with that claim. Let's see if I can go forward here. Yeah, so here is the event number. It's just a receipt number. Now, this is important when you record work, because when you record work, it's a two-part process, and I'll get into it a little more just a few minutes here. But basically, you go in and you basically enter a summary of the work you've done, and then after that, you actually have 30 days to submit. For if it's physical work, you have 30 days, and if you're doing technical work, then it's 90 days. But all that to say, every event that happens, everything that is registered basically gets a receipt number. This forfeiture, the sale, they all have event numbers. So all kinds of different events. And if you wanted to look up that particular event, you could enter it in. So if I click here, we have information regarding this acquisition. What kind of claim it is. Here's the coordinates of the claim here, the owner, and the owner percentage is 100%. And here's the location. Every cell has a unique ID, so this is like the serial code for the cell and the location. So all that to say, when you punch in the event number here, that's how you're basically looking up a receipt number for anything that's happened in the system. Next box, forfeiture date. You can look up a date in the past, or for claims that will forfeit in the future. If nothing has been done, you can punch in dates in, so you can see all the claims. If you're on the hunt for claims that where you can see, oh, that's in my area and no one's done any work. You could even punch in today's date, and you will get all the claims that are about to forfeit. So, and claims are named. When you acquire it, you can give it a name if you'd like. You don't have to, but just know that they're permanent. And then here you can look up an owner name or an owner client number. That's a free miner certificate number here, and you can look up last name. You can specify mineral, placer, or coal, and titles that are in good standing or terminated. So lots of options on this box, and that's a very good place to go to look for a lot of information. Again, it's right up here on the left-hand side of the screen. So what I'm going to do here is zip over to View Placer Set Titles here, and I've actually already been in here, so I'll try and get to the full extent here, and I've timed out. Great. Let's see. Let me see here. What I'm going to do, if I click View Placer Titles, it will give me a new window. Sorry for the wait. Here's a new window. Let's see if this loads up. word of caution: the mineral titles maps, time to time, are very, very slow. I understand they share the servers with many other government offices. So let's see here. You know what? I'm not going to waste your time. I'll just take a quick break. Oh, there it goes. I was going to just pause this video and wait until the map's loaded, but up they come. So a lot of clients see this, and they're used to Google Earth, Google Maps, and it's not as fast, certainly, but there's a couple quick navigation tools. I've seen folks zoom in and zoom in and zoom in. Certainly you can click the plus button here. If you click the screen, it's going to zoom in by a certain amount. Zoom in, and there's a lot quicker ways of just getting around. So what you can do is click on Find Location here, the top middle bar here, and here you have a bunch of different things you can look up. Two things of interest is place name. Well, let's see. I want to show attribute and place name. So if you go to find by attribute, you can put layer name, and then you can look up different layers. For, if you're just starting out here and you want to look up a claim that you have and zoom to it, you don't have to zoom 500 times. You can just click on title current, which means it's going to be inactive, and then here it says the field is tenure number ID, and then the attribute value, you can put in your claim number and it's going to zoom you right to there. So that's a very handy. And you click on submit and off you go. But what I wanted to show you here is find location. Another one is place name. So in my example before, I was looking at Princeton. So just basically click on Princeton and off we go to zoom. And on the top left here of the map, you see it says plus minus, and then this little glove here, if you're clicking on that, it means you're grabbing the map and moving it around. And there's a bunch of tools in here which are useful. Okay, so on the right here, you'll see it says Princeton town. Sometimes if you put in Hope, for instance, you'll get a bunch of different results. Anything with the name Hope in it all, not necessarily the city. So clicking on Princeton here, and it's going to zoom me in. And we'll just wait for it to load. Maybe I will pause this video until it loads. All right, after a brief pause there, the map is loaded and we've zoomed into Princeton here. So there's a lot of information on the mineral titles mapping system, so I'm just going to cover a few quick things here. We've zoomed into Princeton and we can see we're on the Placer map, so these are Placer claims. And a couple just quick functions I wanted to show you. Number one, you can zoom in if you have the plus here and you click and drag a box like this. It's going to make that box the whole of your screen here, and hopefully it'll give me a bit of a break here and won't take too long to load the map. I think I'll just maybe it's the wrong time of day here, but I'm going to come back in 1 second when that map is loaded. All right, and we're back. The mapping has been a bit true to form, which is to say that sometimes, particularly it's 4 p.m. here, late in the afternoon, it definitely does slow down. So keep that in mind. If you need to do something, do it at a good time when you have lots of patience. So okay, so just wanted to show you. I showed you find location here. Some other tools. You can use the grabber here to move around the map. I won't be doing that because I don't think I have the patience for it right now. But on the bottom left, you have a scale here, 27,000. You can change the scale, and I find this a handy way to zoom in by just punching in a different number here. I'll enter in 10,000 or 100,000, depending on how far. Now, if you look under layers here, on the right here, so the layers is at the top of the screen here, just a bit on the left, and then you get all the map layers will show. And just a few of the functions I wanted to show you here are the first three, where you have MTO grid, title current, and the title history. Now, the default is to show the mineral titles grid, which is these cells here. Like I was saying before, these are the cells, the claims. So here, for instance, this 520171 is a claim that is made up of 4 cells, and this one is 6, and so on. And what you have here is the MTO grid is on and current titles are showing. So something that's handy to identify whether a cell is available. There's a lot of other layers here, and I encourage you to check out the legend here. But a good way to know if the area is available for placer acquisition is to click this eye, which is just to the left of MTO grid. So if you click it, it's going to highlight in black. And once you have this selected, it means that wherever you select in this map, it's going to give you information about the MTO grid in that spot. So I turn on the eye, and I'm going to click here where I know there is an active placer claim. So I click in here, and it says, gives me detail regarding this cell. Now, the cell key ID, which I said before was kind of like a unique code for each cell, and then it is available for mineral acquisition, and here it says cell status placer unavailable because it's covered by a reserve / tenure / park. We already know that because it's in pink here, but so that is a good way to just check. If you see reserves, and which are usually colored in green, and you're not quite sure, it's good to just kind of use that trick to identify some information. Something else you can do here, let's go down to the title, current, and I'm going to click on that exact same spot again, and I'm going to get a pop-up box, and it's going to tell me information regarding that active placer claim. So here we have this placer claim. It has a good to date of July 13th, 2016. So as of today's date, I got a couple months if I were looking to see if this client is going to record more work. This is basically a summary of actually the search for mineral placer coal titles screen. I don't think you can link. I don't think anything is linked here. It's just for information from the mineral titles. So that is how you can find out if you're looking in an area, you see a bunch of claims. You say, well, who owns this claim? How big is it? 84 hectares, and yeah, you can get a lot of information from the claim. So close that, and there's a lot of information in here, and like I said, I'm not being entirely comprehensive here, just to give you an overview. One thing I could turn on is the history layer, and that'll show you every claim in the area that has ever since, I think Mineral Titles has been around since 2005, so I think this would be the records up to that point. I'm not 100% sure, but you could basically click there, and you would have to hit refresh. Another little glitch here at the top where it says refresh map. That button doesn't actually work. I think they're going to fix it, but you want to click at the bottom, the second refresh map. So I'm not going to click it because the maps are a little slow here, but yeah, that's your overview of the Mineral Titles map. All right, in this last section, I am going to be talking about recording work and extending the good to date of your claim. So there's a couple ways to do that, as previously mentioned, but when you acquire a claim, you get the claim for 1 year. Like I stated before, the acquisition rates are $5 a hectare for mineral, for placer, and they're, I think, $1.75 for mineral. Now, you get the claim for 1 year, and so the good to date is going to be a year from the acquisition date. And then if you want to move the claim forward, what you're going to have to do is either record that you've done work, or you can make a payment. Now, there are different tiers of the work requirements for placer versus mineral. Now for placer, the work requirement is $20 a hectare a year. Now before the example I used, let's say we have a claim that is one cell that happens to be exactly 20 hectares, just for example purposes. So if you wanted to move that claim forward 1 year, for placer the rate is $20 a hectare a year. So 20 times 20 is $400. So basically for every $400 of work that you have done, you can take your claim forward 1 year. Quick note about mineral claims. They have a tiered structure. So basically they start at cheaper, or a lower rate I should say, and then it goes up every 2 years. So if you have a mineral claim, and again, mineral is hard rock. So if you're doing hard rock drilling and so on, then that is the rate. Now I do have a tab up here, I believe, quickly wanted to talk about the definitions between all the differences between the two claims. I'll add a link in the bottom here. Anyway, back to my example here. So mineral, for the first 2 years, so you purchase the claim, the rate for mineral is for acquisition is $1.75 a hectare, and then when you want to move it forward, mineral claims start at $5 a hectare a year for 2 years. So they call it anniversary year 1 and 2, but it'll start the year after you have the claim, because when you acquire the claim, you've paid that fee, and you have it for the year. So it's $5 a hectare for 2 years, and then the next 2 years, $10 a hectare, and then the next 2 years, 15 a hectare a year, and then it maxes out at the same rate as placer, which is $20 a hectare a year. So again, you have to show that you've done the equivalent of that work. You don't actually have to pay anything if you've done work. The idea is if you've done work, you can register that work and then move the good to date forward. The other option, which is payment instead of exploration and development work, or cash in lieu as it's also known, is a fee that you do pay. And the requirements for cash in lieu, first of all, you can only pay to extend a claim to move it forward. You can only move a claim forward, but for 6 months, anywhere between 6 months and up to 1 year. So you couldn't move it forward. You couldn't pay to move a claim forward just 1 month, and you couldn't do the same to move it forward 2 years. So cash in lieu, or payment instead of exploration and development work, is twice the annual work requirement. So in summary, if you have our placer claim here, that is one cell, exactly 20 hectares, you have two options when you're looking to extend the expiry date of this claim. Number one, you can you can record the work. So, 20 times 20, the placer rate, annual work requirement is 20 times 20, is show us that you've done $400. Or if you're going to pay cash in lieu, you're going to have to actually pay cash $800. So you either show us that you've done the work at this value, or you pay twice that. And so that is something you would do in Mineral Titles Online. Now, when you go to record work, I will tell you it's really important, if you want to keep that claim, know your good to date. And it's very important. If you have a claim transferred to you, if you've purchased a claim from another client, immediately go and know your good to date. Because if you transfer a claim, you don't get a new good to date. You don't get a new year. You get the transferred. It's not a new claim. It's a transfer. So you'll have to go on and check out exactly where that good to date was. Sometimes it's just a few months down the road. So and then your claim forfeits, and then I will tell you that some miners out there are very quick at getting in on that land, and they might even try and sell that land back to you at a premium. So just know your good to dates. So when you go into Mineral Titles Online, what you're going to do is you're going to click on Mineral Claim, and you're going to log in, Mineral Claim or Placer Claim, and one of the options is Exploration and Development Work / expiry date change. So recording the work you're just filling out a few screens. This is one of the screens I have up here I wanted to show you. That basically you're registering that you've done work. And the quick summary of what you do is you register and you input the value of work, and based on the value, that is going to tell you how far into the future you're going to be able to move that good to date. So in our example, we're going to have to show $400. Now, when you're recording work, you can actually take a claim forward 1 day up to 10 years forward in the future. So a lot of people record just 1 year of work. It's not extremely intuitive here that you can actually change that, but what will happen is they only record 1 work now, and then the regulations, I believe, state that you have up to 1 year from when the work was completed to record the work. So if you only did 1 year and then the year passed since you completed the work, and then you try to go and register that work, take it forward another year. The system will say no, because if you look on this screen in front of us, it says work start date, work stop date. If you enter those dates, and if they're in the past more than 1 year, the system will not let you register the work. So long story short is get in there and know the value of your work, and then take your claim forward 2 years, 3 years, 5 years if you have that much value. So when you go to record the work in Mineral Titles Online, it's going to ask you for the title numbers. It's going to ask you about linking events. Now, for instance, if I had 2 years to record and I went in today and I only recorded one 1 year accidentally, I could still go in tomorrow and do another recording that would bring it forward another year. So if I have 2 recordings, basically on that second recording, I would want to link the second recording to the event number of the first one. So that is how the Mineral Titles Online knows that we have 2 events recording work, and at the end of the day, they're only expecting 1 report. This will prevent you from getting a letter from Mineral Titles Online saying, hey, you haven't submitted a report. So yeah, so that is the linked event screen, and then you will come to this screen, the data input form. So at the top here, physical work, technical work. If you do technical work, you probably know you probably know what you're talking about here. Most of for these purposes, it's physical work, and you can click that, and then these are the items: placer, sluicing, panning, and rocker box, and so on. So you can tick off the relevant types of work here, and you can enter your work start date. Now, one thing about this date format, it's incredibly specific. You see in the middle here it says MON, month. That's because January is represented as JAN. If you put anything else in here, it's going to give you an error message. So, 2016 JAN/01 would be January 1st, 2016. If you put a space in there, it's going to give you an error message. It can be very frustrating. So yeah, make sure that date, those months are represented by 3 letters. And July, for instance, is JUL, not July, and so on. So the total value of work is something that trips up a lot of people, and they're in the report, and so the physical work report is due 30 days after you do this recording. The physical work report, it's a 4-page template, and they require a map as well. But one of the pages, the page 3 of the physical work report, is a cost statement where you break down your costs. And I always tell people, go and fill out your cost statement. I know the report's not due for 30 days, but filling out the cost statement will show you the value of work that you have done. So, yeah, so the 3 main costs that you see are labor, and I have a document I will show you in a little bit here, but it's a document that the branch puts out that explains how to claim what you can claim. But you have labor, and then you have transportation costs, and then you have food and lodging. Now, there's a lot of other things in the guide, and again, this is just a brief, kind of a simple overview. But let's say that our total value of work is $800. Now, in our example here, we have a placer claim. It's 1 cell, and it is 20 hectares, right? So our annual work requirement is $400. Like I said before, you don't have to move the claim forward a full 1 year if you're recording work. You can move it forward a couple months, a couple of years based on the value of work that you have done. So if you find yourself in a bind, if it's winter where you are and you want it, and you just and you've only done a few $100s worth of work, you don't have a full year, you can go in and you can record the work that you have done if you only had $200 in this case. And for instance, if you just needed to get through winter until the weather cleared up so you can go and work on your claim, that is an option to you. Now, mine permit number, if you do any mechanized disturbance, you may need a permit. And permitting is something you find with at Front Counter BC. I'll put a link below, but there's 2 sides. There's the mineral titles side here, and then on the other side you have permits. So if you're going to be using any kind of sluice box, dredge, and so on, you may need a permit, and definitely check, because you certainly don't want to put in a bunch of work and then be told by an inspector that you don't have a permit and you can't do that work. So PAC here, portable assessment credits, this is related to technical work. If you don't have if you're not doing technical work, you don't have to worry about this. And I'm not going to get into that too much in this video. And then now down here, it's going to show your title number here and the good to date, current good to date. And so you can list multiple claims here if they're adjoining, if they're touching. And you can actually apply work that has been done on one claim. So let's say you have 3 claims in a row and they have to be bordering. Then and you can't corner to corner, they have to be full borders. You can, if you've done a whole bunch of work in one spot, you can apply that value to those 3 claims. So on the first screen, when it asks you to put in your claim numbers, or title numbers I should say, you can put in the 3 claims. But then they do ask you to specify work performed on. And then new good to date. So the system default is to bring you forward 1 year. And this is where a lot of folks get mixed up. They think they go to year. I know in the past you used to just move claims forward in equal year increments, but you can actually put a different, this is a changeable field. As you can see, there's a box here, and you can go in here and you could punch in 2018, 2019, and the system's a little confusing, but basically what you're going to do is you change this in here. So if I had $800 total value of work, I would want this to go forward 2 years, not just 1 year. I would change this to 2018. Now what you have to do, so you can put, now if I put 2020 in here, now I've indicated I only have $800 worth of work, and I go to the next screen, it's going to give me an error message. It's going to say, well, you're trying to move your claim forward 4 years or whatever it is, but you've only, your total value of work is 800. So it's a little confusing. Also, a quick thing about these buttons here, the back and the next button, you have to use these buttons. Do not use the back buttons on your browser in the top left corner because they do not work. It's kind of a lesson you only have to learn once. So so use the back. So you will go next here to, I don't have a screenshot of it, but it'll go to a subtotal screen, and it'll say, okay, so let's say we did put the $800 in here and we put 2018 in here. It's going to go next, and it's going to say, okay, here's your claim. And like I said, you can apply work. So if we had 3 claims here, and I wanted to take one claim forward 6 months, and one claim forward 6 months, and another one 3 year, and again, they have to be bordering. And if they're not bordering, you'll get an error message as well saying these claims are not bordering. But yeah, you can divvy up the work. If you've done all the work in one place and they're joining, you can spread it around. So total value work 800, and so put that 2018, and I go to next, it's going to give you a subtotal screen. And when you, if you basically click OK, the next button, you're going to make it final. And what you're looking for is an event number. That event number, and you should get a confirmation email, but the event number is going to be the receipt for this recording, where you're basically registering that you've done $800 of work, you took this good 2 date forward 2 years. So, and that event number goes in the physical work report, which is due in 30 days from the date of recording. So there you go. So make sure you get the work recorded. If you don't get the work recorded, your claim forfeits. It's gone. But if you record work and you're late on your report, they'll send you a notice. You will get a notice from the Mineral Titles branch saying, you recorded work, but it's been over 30 days. So that is a summary of recording work. And I guess I'll make one last part here, which is the regarding the report, that the physical work report that needs to be submitted. All right, welcome back to this very last part where I'm going to talk about the physical work report form. Like I was saying, if you've done physical work, you have to submit, you have to record the work before the claim forfeits, of course, and then the work report form, which goes into greater detail, has to be submitted within 30 days of the recording. For technical work, that's going to be 90 days as well. But today I'm just going to go over the physical work report form. If you go back to the branch website, the main website, and then you click on mineral and placer titles, and then forms, maps, and publications here, you can see forms and placer titles here, forms for mineral and placer titles, and scrolling down here, I can see a free miner certificate form, like we talked about earlier, for corporate or individual. Also useful is the landowner notification. If you own property and a miner is going to be coming near your house to do work, there's a bunch of rules and regulations in place so that everyone is happy. And also, if you're a miner looking to work near private land, there's a lot of links in there. But if I scroll down here to physical work report form, you can see the form is here. And then there's also actually a sample form, which we'll get into in just a little bit. So I will open up the form here, which is right here. So the report of physical exploration and development, it's 4 pages, and you also have to submit a map, which I'll get into in a bit. But I want to just quickly touch on some of the important parts here. So in the top left, event number. So this is going to be the confirmation number from the work that you've already recorded. So if you're starting here first, just remember you have to record that work first. If you send in a report, it doesn't have an event number, they're going to contact you and say, we need the event number. You need to indicate which recording this relates to. Tenure numbers on which work was done, and the type of claim, mineral or placer. You're going to put in the information of the holder, and if you have an agent working on your behalf. And then after that, you have qualifications, experience of workers. I think they want to see what you've done and who's working, and your history. And then here, actual dates work was done. It's pretty straightforward. permit number if you had one. If you were doing any mechanized disturbance, you should have a permit, or at least should confirm that you don't need a permit. And then it goes on, some information I won't go into here. Just to let you know, for work activity, if you're doing panning, you still need to enter information about, even if you're doing an estimate, you have to put in this information. You have to fill out these areas. And if you don't really know exactly what to put in here, contact the mineral titles branch, and they'll help you. But you do have to give an idea of, the amount of ground excavated and tested and so on. You should keep a logbook when you're out there, and number your sites, so on, and describe the work activity that you were doing, even if it was just panning. So anyway, there's more areas here that I'll let you read through. The geographic location of the work sites. If you were trying to tell someone how to get there, I think this is for their inspectors. If you were trying to tell someone how to get there, how would they get there, basically? I think they want you to be detailed. And then, so page 3 here is the cost statement, and we'll look at a sample cost statement, but this is where you're going to enter things like labor and exploration equipment, food, lodging, other, and travel transportation. I highly recommend you fill out the online version, and I will show you the form in just a few minutes here that generally breaks down labor. But I know for a fact that for the hours that you work, the foreman or supervisor can claim up to $35 an hour. What's really great about this form is that you can just punch in labor, or you could put in, worker number 1, 10 hours, and then for the first worker, you can put in $35 an hour, and that's going to go into the subtotal there, and really, really helpful. Excavation equipment, I'll show you this on the form. In our example here, let's just say we were just doing panning. Now, food lodging, I'll show you the rates for that. I know for a fact that you can claim up to, for commercial accommodations, it's $70 to $100 a day. For field conditions, $50 to $70. So let's just say, worker number 1 was up there for 3 days, and it will put $70 a day. You can just punch those in, and again, that goes into the subtotal here. Now, one thing I wanted to talk about is travel and transportation. You can claim for a 4x4 truck up to a maximum of 55 cents a kilometer. But what you have to know is that number is capped to 20% of the total of everything else. So see where it says $560 work value here. Even if we had, driven 5,000 kilometers to get to the claim, we're not going to be allowed to claim for more than 20% of this number. So if you print off the forms yourself, you may not be aware of exactly how it works. So I recommend using the form online, just putting in the information accurately. So, you could put in 4x4 truck here, and you could put 500 kilometers here, and you see how it says $275. That number is accurate, but if you look at the total allowable transportation costs on the right, it's capped to $112. So, again, as I was saying before, this is an excellent way to get an idea of the work that you've done. Keep accurate records, keep your receipts. I know they don't ask for them immediately, but they can. So, just like if you're doing your own income taxes, always a good idea to keep the receipts. So so that is the cost statement, and it gives you a good idea. And that's a very basic, there's a lot of cost, exploration equipment, rental rates, and so on that you can put in here. You have to sign it and date it. I know a digital signature is okay. You can just type your name in there, and if you have any other information regarding the work that was done, you can put it in there. A couple quick guides that are really helpful here. They have a sample form here. So here's an event number and a tenure number, so on, and your information. So this is right on the other page where we saw the physical work report form. So this will give you an idea. This one has a lot more information in here. You have lodging and different rates. And there are standard rates for rental rates. Now, you can't claim capital costs on a report. If you buy something, you can't just put it on there. It has to fall into the form of what's allowable. So I will show you here. That's the sample form. Have a look at that. And then if you remember way back, I was talking about information updates on their main website. Information update number 8 is the guide to evaluation of physical work for assessment credit on claims. What does that mean? That basically means this is what you can put on a physical work cost statement. If it isn't in this guide, again, you can see the link in the description box, it's probably not going to fly. Of course, you can always check it out. But anyway, this is the definition of physical work, and they have specific, the last one here is in relation to placer claim. Panning, digging, washing of gravels to test for the presence of economically significant materials. So have a look through this. Types of work. This is kind of important. You should just know that this is basically a few things I talked to, but have a read through the thing about the cap at 20% here, and the truck being at 55 cents per kilometer for a 4x4 and 50 cents for a 4x2 supply costs. And there are unacceptable costs. Road and trail work are currently not acceptable as standalone physical work. So if you're going to your claim and you're just hanging out, you're walking around, you're looking, you're not, you can do that, but you're just not going to get work credit for it. You can't use that value to move your claim forward. And the same goes for clearing land. And I know that's a tough for some who put a lot of time into, clearing access. But, and again, you can check with them on this one. But it does, activities such as walking around the claim, picking up rocks, are not allowed for work credit. So, and here's determining the value of physical exploration. So have a read through. Here's the rates. Foreman 35 and laborers 25. And now, if you're really into, if you have a lot of big equipment, here's a whole bunch of rental rates. But I will lead that to you to look for. So basically, that is what you can put on a cost statement, which you can use that value to move your good to date forward. Last but not least, the requirements are the report, the 4-page report. Well, it's 5, but the 5th page is blank, and a map that shows, I believe the regulations state at the scale of 1 to 10,000, that shows where the work was done within the claim boundaries. So if you have photos, for instance, you can submit them. I think the better information you could submit on the report, the more information you could submit, the better. The absolute bare bones requirements is the report and the map. So they have a guide up on their website here, which is the quick guide to generating a map to be submitted with a physical work report. I'm not going to go through it at this point, but consider it a bit of a Coles Notes guide to if you need to generate that map at the right scale. So there you go. I'll put this link in the box below. And yeah, so record your work, submit your reports on time. Feel free to leave me a comment or a like below. And if you have any questions, you can leave a comment and I'll try to get back to you as well. So there you go, and happy mining.